Hey folks, so as you may have already seen in my main channel video, I turned my house into a gigantic jumping puzzle. So this is the outside puzzle, and then there's 6 further rooms, each with its own separate theme and various difficulties on the inside of the house. A lot of effort has gone into this. This was in the WoW housing contest. The whole neighborhood is here. Obviously a lot of people have moved out since then, so it's a lot of empty plots, but Howl's Moving Castle is plot 40, so, there's a lot of still cool houses in this neighborhood, and my jumping puzzle was part of it. I didn't really go into detail on that in the main channel video itself. I just kind of gave a brief house tour, talked about a lot of my thoughts on the housing system in general, and stuff that I'm trying to do with it going forward, etc., etc. But one thing that I thought was important, especially for something like this, a jumping puzzle, is to show how to actually clear it, because something that a lot of people get this misconception of is that I just strung together a bunch of really crazy jumps and didn't test it at all and whatever. Every single time I see a streamer go through my house, all the people in their chat are like, oh, is this actually possible? Did they actually test this to be sure? And it's like, not only did I test it to be sure, I have tested it on multiple different race sizes. I've fine-tuned the jumps if I think one is way too hard for different sized races like Volpera, etc. And I also did it with 0% move speed, which you're going to see here. This is why I'm on this character. It is a small race. Small races tend to have the most trouble clearing the puzzle, but it is possible. I've done it entirely on this character. And I don't have any additional move speed, and I'm not going to be using Roll. I'm not going to be using Transcendence, because I don't have it. Tiger's Lust, anything like that. So the puzzle is not only tested, it has been rigorously tested to make sure that literally anybody can clear it. So yes, it is doable. And I think it's kind of interesting because a lot of my inspiration for stuff like this was games like Super Mario Maker, and I think that I'll probably end up mentioning this. I should note I'm recording this obviously before I make that video, but I suspect that I will bring that up at least in passing in the main channel video. And in games like Super Mario Maker, there's obviously the forced clear condition where you have to get through your own level before you can upload it, whatever. And that's not necessarily the case here, right? Somebody can literally string together a bunch of impossible jumps, call it a jumping puzzle, and, force people to try it. So there is a little bit of suspicion for stuff like that, where if it looks remotely hard, people immediately question it, because, yeah, you see a bunch of floating rocks in a generally normal spaced out area, you can assume, okay, yeah, I can obviously jump from point A to point B. But the moment somebody sees a remotely hard jump in my puzzle, their brain immediately goes to either A, this is not possible and was not tested, B, this requires a shitload of move speed, or often, a lot of times, this is just a Demon Hunter jumping puzzle, which, no, it's not. And I think people who are experienced with Demon Hunter jumping puzzles, or just Demon Hunter parkour in general, can very easily look at something and be like, okay, yeah, that's Demon Hunter only. And you look at a lot of these jumps and you're like, no, this seems very reasonable, if you are an experienced WoW parkour person like I am. But that's not the case for everybody. So, anyways, with all that little preamble aside, I only ranted for a few minutes. We're fine. It's the second channel video anyway, so if you're here, I assume you want to see more of the room in general. Now, one thing I will comment on, because I don't know exactly how much detail I'm going to go into in my main channel video, is obviously a lot of effort was put into the overall aesthetic design of the house, and a lot of stuff that I included isn't even necessarily part of the puzzle. And I think for jumping puzzles like this, for it to be a really successful medium, which I hope it becomes, it's important for them to all have an actual coherent theme, because, if you're just aimlessly jumping from, rock to rock, that gets boring after a while. I wanted to make sure that everybody felt like there was a reason to the rooms in my house, that they were jumping for, a purpose. I don't know, it sounds silly, but I feel like a very easy way to do that is just making it look pretty and adding some decor. And while personally, I think I was very successful in this, and a lot of people seem to really latch on to, the whole owl idea of the house, in the contest. I think just objectively speaking, it's different. It's very unique. I have yet to see a single house exterior that looks even remotely like mine, with the whole, house on stilts thing. I committed to it, and obviously, the stilts play a crucial role in the jumping puzzle itself. The little warden owls play into it. Only one of the owls is actually part of the puzzle. That's something I see a lot of other people do. They, jump in. They're like, okay, how do I get onto this owl? How do I enter the puzzle? And actually, only one of them, only this owl, is one of the required jumps. as part of the puzzle. All of the other ones are purely for decoration. But it's intentional, right? They're all near the stilts. I did that on purpose, because I wanted to make you think, like, okay, which owl is the starting point? None of them are. You don't start in any of the owls. And there's all this kind of, like, misdirection here of, like, okay, where's the starting point? Where's the starting point? In fact, I realized that I hit it too well initially, so you may be like, well, obviously it's where the blinking arrow is. And yes, but the reason the blinking arrow is here is because after, like, I don't know, 2 days straight of people just not being able to figure out the start of the puzzle, which I didn't think was that hard, but I think for a lot of people, they're just like, okay, so, like, I'm not going to sit here and see where, like, the super elegant hidden puzzle entrance is. I'm just going to assume, again, like I said before, that the puzzle is broken, that it doesn't work, and that the jump is impossible, when actually, no, it is, in my opinion, very elegantly hidden, and when you see it, you're like, oh, and that's the reaction most people had, like, no way, that's where you start it? And it's really cool, but people don't think that way unless I'm sitting there guiding them to it, but I think that adds to the narrative, right? And hopefully if jumping puzzles like this catch on, which obviously, again, I'm hoping they will, then more people will start to do this, and when you see a difficult house like this, where you're like, okay, this is a jumping puzzle, your thought isn't immediately, somebody just didn't finish this, you're like, ah, okay, let me put my detective cap on and think, where is the start of this puzzle? It's probably hidden amongst all the decor and blends into the scenery, and that's the goal. That has been the goal. It's the goal with a lot of these rooms. But yeah, you know, I have my little night elf architecture, so one of the reasons why I wanted to make the entrance hidden is because I didn't want this to seem like there is a difficult path leading up to my house. The exterior vibe that I want this to give off is very much, there is no way to enter here. This house is up on stilts. There shouldn't really be an entrance, like you can get here if you're flying, but it's meant to be like a little guarded outpost, right? And that's why, like, the warden owls are watching it. Like, all of this stuff, it's just like a little night elf fountain, like moonwell area. It's a little warden watch post. And that's why a lot of the jumps are meant to look like either they're just accidental jumps, like the environment just kind of is shaped in such a way that you can make these jumps, like is the case with a lot of naturally occurring parkour courses out in the wild, or things like this. Like you can see, this will obviously be a jump. This is a table, right? But this table is meant to look like two boards of wood hammered into these pillars to, like, keep them together. This isn't meant to be, like, mechanically, right? It is meant to be a jump, but the design of it is meant to look like this isn't supposed to be part of a jumping puzzle. It's supposed to just be two boards of wood hammered into the side of these stilts, and it just so happens that you can jump across it. Like, this chain, it's, like, impossibly seemingly holding the stilts together, right? The physics don't make sense. There's, like, these little boards. These ones are a bit more like, you know, there's pillars sticking out. That's standard jumping puzzle flair, right? I also wanted to have at least one section of, like, blatant jumping puzzle posts sticking out of the side to basically cue people in when they look at this of, okay, this is a jumping puzzle, but the rest of it is a little bit more subdued, right? And then, yeah, you got some floating rocks that should also cue you into, like, this is a jumping puzzle, but it's only at the very end, right? After you've gone through all of the other stuff, like the cage is part of the puzzle, but it's a cage dangling from the top. It looks like a natural part of the design. I've probably gone into enough detail on this, but considering it is something that I put a lot of thought into, and now my dog is obviously barking, I wanted to at least draw attention to that, especially considering the current version of the puzzle, and probably the version for the foreseeable future, has a giant blinking arrow. And I wanted to make it clear that this is a mechanical choice, not an aesthetic choice. I did this because people just couldn't fucking find the entrance, and I wanted to make sure that they could play my puzzle. But it starts up here, and once again, look at how natural this looks. These rocks I put here to just kind of even further show you that this is a path, but outside of these, like, slate cobblestone path, which I clipped into the, like, hill here, this is naturally occurring. This little hill is naturally occurring. This rock naturally occurring. The tree being shaped like this naturally occurring. This is a perfect naturally occurring, like, jumping puzzle obstacle. Blizzard put this here, right? So I see this tree, and I'm like, oh, this is perfect. Why don't I use this? Like, we're already limited on exterior budget, so if, like, the first 4 jumps of my jumping puzzle are literally just free external decor, not only do I get to blend my jumping puzzle into the surrounding terrain, and have it extend a further distance outside the plot, but I effectively have a bunch of jumps that I don't need to pay budget for. How cool is that? Because that was kind of the entire idea behind this, that you leap from the tree, you land on this little runestone here. Now, you have to jump, land on this little post, This one's a little bit tricky. I used to have a secondary jump sticking out of, like, the top here, and people were supposed to, like, jump onto that, jump over here. But what I quickly realized is that you can just jump like this and get up anyway. And although it's kind of tricky, right? Because the reason I had this jump, like, in the middle here is because that seems more logical to people. But what I found is that that jump actually ended up being harder to do, even though this seems like an impossible jump, right? It's actually extremely easy to just jump over here. There's like an invisible little foothold. You just get up here. And if I made people think they had to jump over here, it was just objectively harder to do. It wasted decor space, and then people wouldn't find this. You see this, you're like, okay, how do I get up? I must have to do something like that, and eventually kind of stumble into the correct solution, really. So now I jump over to the owl. It's a little bit slippery, this owl hitbox, so I'm going to try to be a little bit careful here. Jump over here onto these little boards of wood. This one also, again, a little bit slippery if I overshoot it, so I'm just going to try to be very careful. This is very much an intended part of the jumping puzzle process. You know, being careful not to bonk your head and fall. Jumping puzzles in a lot of MMOs are like that. We're going to jump on the chains. A lot of people like to just jump this gap completely. I think when Max was doing this puzzle, he just did, like the wind, jump across here. That's doable. I think that's one of the neat things about this puzzle in hindsight. Obviously, you know, kind of like stroking myself off here a little bit with my design. But I fucked up. For the purposes of this, by the way, I am going to give myself little shortcuts. I won't be able to do that for the rest of it, but like if I fail and have to reattempt the entire puzzle, fuck me. Like, we're gonna be here for an hour, and I do have shit to do. And of course, one of the other issues of being a level 10 is I don't have steady flight on this character. Most people will do steady flight, and will actually do this when reattempting my puzzle. It's fine. It's significantly harder to do stuff like this when you're talking through it. I always like to do a backwards hop. You can forward hop it, but I find that the backwards hop is more consistent. Jumps like this is like very standard jumping puzzle stuff. People see this and they're like, what the fuck? It's actually so easy. You just aim for the edge like that. And like, if the jumping puzzle is designed correctly, which obviously I made sure it was, then jumps like that, they seem really scary because they're super far. But if it's designed properly, it should always be really safe if you just aim for the edge. Like, you get as much speed as you possibly can. I fucked that up, yeah. You get as much speed as you possibly can, and then you just aim for the side of it, and you're good to go. This jump, I will admit, is very, very, very hard on, like, very small height, low speed. This is one where actually, like I said, I had to go back and fine-tune this. On the very first version of this puzzle, this was impossible. Actually, I don't know if necessarily impossible. I clipped onto the edge of the beam here and then managed to hop up. But it was, for all practical purposes, impossible on these races. So I had to fine-tune it to make sure, like, yeah, you can barely make it in, like, a clean way if you jump on the very edge, but it's insanely precise. The thing about this is very basic jumps like that, where there's, like, one clear condition of, like, jump from point A to point B. It's very hard to make a suitable challenge for that across multiple races. So this jump with, like, 20% speed or something, which most people have passively without even realizing it, is trivial. Very few people get tripped up by this, but the reason for that is because I needed to make sure it was hard, but possible on this setup. This section is interesting. So you click on these little stools, you teleport up through the wall. It's basically completely foolproof and impossible to get wrong if you know what to do, right? The main reason I did this, ironically, it tripped Max up and he couldn't find the last wooden stool. Most people figured it out. Ironically, he didn't, but, you know, obviously he's on a time limit, right? I did this for two reasons. One, this is, 1, 2, 3, 4 budget to cross this entire section. I am at, I can show you, right? Technically, I forgot I shaved off a few decor pieces. I was thinking of adding, like, 1 or 2 little decorations at some point, but haven't decided what I want to add yet. But for a while there, I was at 250, and in order to conserve space, I want you to navigate up every single stilt. So I'm like, okay, how can I make an incredibly cheap way to get from here to here that is novel, right? That isn't just another set of jumping posts that wrap around. And I thought this was different. I'm surprised that actually most people seem to agree. It's actually probably one of the I guess in hindsight, most iconic parts of this puzzle. Every time somebody gets here, they're like, oh, that's sick. And I'm like, I mean, yeah, it's cool. But when I designed it, I'm like, people are going to think this is lazy as hell, because it was effectively a budget shaving solution of like, how do I make something different that is very cheap on decor? But the end result actually worked out, because a lot of people seem to think that stool teleportation is really cool. And I guess if you've never seen it done, and this is your first time seeing it, it is neat. But it's also extremely simple. Once you know the trick, it is basically impossible to fuck that part up. So, personally, I don't think it's very interesting from a jumping puzzle standpoint. The edge here. But it works, it functions. And that's what's really important. We're gonna do this. And I'm not gonna fuck up any of the last few jumps. I felt the floating welcome mat was a nice little touch. And then this is actually, yeah, fucking hell. That last jump is doable, right? Obviously, you're going to see me do it now. But for whatever reason, on short races, it is just really finicky. There's a lot of jumps that, like, this is why I said Volpera and, like, I guess Gnomes have the same problem. For whatever reason, their hitboxes, while technically speaking, like, WoW hitboxes are supposed to be all the same, something to do with their height makes certain jumps really, really, really hard. I think it's because their heads bonk at some points. You'll see, I'll point it out when I'm showing the puzzle. There's a few areas where I specifically had to add something to make this possible on those races. Also, little thing. It's a little extra bonus owl in this watchtower up here. Thought that was kind of neat. Just wanted to point that out, because I think most people aren't going to see it, but obviously I added that with a purpose. I thought it was a little bit of a cute addition to have the owl in the watchtower at the top, so I wanted to make sure that that was included in the video. I don't know if I'm going to draw attention to it in the main thing. So now, we have the cozy cabin. This one, I unfortunately had to trim a bit of decor. So, you'll notice here, I am quite literally at the decor limit. There is no more room. Which is also going to make things a little bit tricky. I think what I'm probably going to have to do here is, at some point, for the purposes of this video, right? Like, I had one recording session way earlier on when I was testing this, where I just one-shot this entire place in like 36 minutes. So that was really, really, really fast, and it still took me 36 minutes. And I am bound, while sitting here and talking through all my decisions, to make more mistakes than I would if I'm just doing it blind, or not blind, like silently, and just kind of laser focused on getting the jumps right. So I'm going to fuck up a lot. It's going to take me probably like 2 hours if I don't do that. So what I'll probably do is I'll get like through the vast majority of the puzzle, and then I'm going to give myself a skip to the next room just to show you the exact intended route, right? Or something like that. We'll see. Unfortunately, because I'm at budget, we're going to say goodbye to the bearskin rug for now. I will add it back later, but this way I can create an object to like levitate myself to the next floor. I also had to add a big blinking arrow here because, believe it or not, right? So I'm probably going to talk about this in my video, or like make a dramatic showcase. The entire idea of this room is you walk in, it's a nice little room. Has, like, you know, a little kitchen area. I put a lot of detail into this kitchen area, I should note, you know, for something that is completely unrelated to the kitchen, or for the jumping puzzle. I just thought it was, like, neat. Make a little dining area. Had to trim a lot of stuff out of here, unfortunately. Just some little seating area, a little bed, a little bookcase, etc. I was actually really happy. One of the judges of the housing contest did notice something about the bookcase. They were like, oh, I feel like this bookcase serves two purposes. It blocks off an area for the puzzle, and it serves as decor. And they were like, I'm not sure if that's the case, but it feels like it. And they were actually spot on. One of the main reasons I added this bookcase in the first place is because the jumping puzzle is supposed to start here, right? I'll show you the entire thing through, but you start over here. And what I realized is after I added this decor, you could technically jump from here and land on like a little ledge there. The top of this bookcase blocks that off. With enough speed, it is still possible. So people can, like, with high speed, jump over here, land on the bookcase, right? I could probably make the angle work if I really wanted to. But just adding this bookcase here makes it, like, 5 times harder. And all you're saving is this jump, and this jump up here. Like, it's just saving a few jumps to do this. And I wanted to make sure that this remained the main start to the puzzle. And although this is still possible, it is now significantly more difficult to reliably pull this off. So as I suspected, a few people tried this. When they realized it wasn't super consistent, they just went back to the intended solution. So I thought this was an elegant way of decorating the space and blocking off a shortcut while not necessarily making it impossible, just impractical. And that's what I try to do with a lot of this stuff. Also, little raptor falling behind the bed. Like, one of the best examples, right, is, so whenever I add decoration, I build the house starting with the decor, or starting with the jumping puzzle, I should say. So I think to myself, how do I want to make this puzzle work? I wanted to use the wine press. The original version of this puzzle didn't even have these barrels. You jumped along the side of the wall here and then jumped back up onto this wine press, jumped onto this, jumped onto the pipe. This is all part of the original puzzle. I wanted to have something that you had to jump onto here, then you go onto the little head here, climb up, boom, 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 chandelier, into the next room, boom. And that was the core of the puzzle. But then, this entire section of the room is completely empty. So, okay, I have my core puzzle, this pocket's empty, this entire area is empty, there's just kind of a fence sticking out of the wall here. How do I brighten up the space? Like, liven, I don't know, make it more lively. I can't talk right now, I'm really tired and my throat is dying. The moment I press record, dying for some reason, which is lovely. I also am out of water, so fun. So what I decided to then do is spruce it up and add some decor here. So I made a little kitchen area. Does this serve any purpose? No. It's purely to make this section of the puzzle not feel completely empty and desolate. And I added some random stuff here. Serves no real purpose. Just thought it looked like kind of pretty. I did distinctly decide that this area needed to be a hanging garden. Originally, it was just a series of jumps, but I'm like, I have a little fence here. And it's like some posts hanging from the wall. Hanging garden. Perfect. Right? So that was the original idea there, right? Of like, I actually looked through the decor catalog and I'm like, oh, there's these hanging baskets. This looks cool. That perfectly fits the vibe of a hanging garden. So I'll just add these here, throw some flowers in them, bing, bang, boom, right? And I actually played around with like, okay, can I jump off here? Is there anything I can do here? I specifically moved around some decor here, like there used to be, like there's a torch right here, right? So I'm like very OCD, so I like symmetry, right? So originally there was a torch on the other side here too. And what I realized is that it was way too easy to like jump here, jump onto the torch, and then jump onto the shovel tusk. So I took out the torch. And I did a bunch of testing, couldn't really find a way to make this side of the puzzle work, and I'm like, okay, perfect, right? So it kind of looks like you can maybe jump off here, but like it's not really possible. And then, to my surprise, one of the judges, Softpaws, while testing this, did this set of jumps, and like it's really hard for me to do with really low speed, and especially I actually don't think Volpera can do it because your head bonks here. But if your head doesn't bonk and you have enough speed, you can jump from this basket to this basket, and then if you pop dash in cat form, you can clear this gap and land on it. Which, like, technically speaking, a lot of parts of the puzzle will quote-unquote break if you have way too much speed. Like, I can't prevent all of that. I need to make sure that it is possible on any combination. I don't necessarily need to make sure that it's not cheesable, right? Like, anybody could just pick a Demon Hunter and break the puzzle in half. I can't control that. The idea here is that it's meant to be doable by anybody. And the fact that even that shortcut was possible with enough speed, not on a Demon Hunter, right? I was honestly really happy with that. Because that just meant that like some of the natural decor that I put in here, completely by accident, ended up turning into a shortcut. And I think like as a game designer, really, that's the best thing you can hope for, people naturally finding little things in your game. And I kept it. I haven't changed anything, right? Like, technically speaking, is that like against the intended route? But, you know, I think it's cool. And most people still try to do it the normal way because in many ways it's easier, I feel. And yeah, I think that is a cooler way to go about it. One little thing that I want to point out now, I'm not going to show every instance that I do it, but I want to showcase something that, like, basically peek behind the curtain of, like, how jumping puzzles like this are designed. So I'm going to do this and show you, right? Look at this. There's a little fence post sitting in here. Now, normally, this little part of the fireplace, this, like, wood piece here, does not have collision. And there's a few other areas throughout here, like Anixia's head has a fence post clipped into it. There's a lot of little things that have fence posts clipped. This one actually doesn't. I hovered my cursor over it, but I want to make it clear. This one just has a very defined hitbox. But there you can see, I'll talk about this one when we get to it, right? And throughout the puzzle, this is the case in a lot of areas. Where, actually the most iconic, we'll talk about the chandelier when we get to it. This is entirely hidden fence posts that make this work. A lot of times I see an item that I think is really cool, and I'm like, I want to jump on that, right? That looks like it would be really fun to jump around on. And then the hitbox doesn't exactly align with what I think it should be and what most people would logically look at and think it should be. And there's two ways that that can happen, right? Either the hitbox has way too much invisible space around it. Those items are unfortunately unusable. If there's just a big invisible barrier, you can't really do a lot with that. It is what it is. But sometimes you can like clip through objects. And in that case, if the object still looks very cool, and you can just take some like 1 decor cost fence posts and basically give it a hitbox, like shape the object's hitbox to your liking, you can add a cool set piece to your puzzle that actually has the exact hitbox proportions that you want if you're really careful with the fine-tuning of your hidden fence posts. So I did that a lot throughout the puzzle. I'm not going to show that every single time, but this is a very easy way for me to show it because I can just size this down, show you the post, size it back up, and it doesn't break anything. So good way to showcase that. Yeah, this is room 1. Room 1, I think I showed a little bit here. Start here. You this way, jump here. A lot of people get this part confused, so a lot of people will try to jump this directly. Now, I do believe that I'm not going to try it myself right now because I think it actually is impossible in Volpera, but there is a shortcut I've seen where if you jump and like wedge your face, yeah. Like, I think that is the way that somebody found it. Like, somebody showed me that they could do that skip. I'm not sure if I'm doing it wrong or if it isn't possible in Volpera. I think it is the latter. But if you wedge yourself in there, I think they were on like a Blood Elf or something, you can, if done perfectly, hop up onto this pipe. A lot of people really tried to make that jump work, and it is possible, again, like we said before, but it's also so much easier to just position yourself here on the little hidden fence post and just make that jump there. And it seems really precise. That's because I'm on a 0% speed Volpera. Very, very easy to do with even like a tiny bit of speed. That jump is much easier to do with a backwards hop. You technically, like with a lot of these things, I can forwards hop this, like you see there, but I personally find a lot of this stuff like easier with backwards hops. Like, I think one of the reasons why a lot of people got tripped up, like for instance, the soft pause shortcut here, she saw me doing the backwards hop here, and apparently she's one of those people who got baited into unbinding their, like, you know, WASD. They unbind their backpedal key because they're like, it's useless. For the record, just as a high-level Mythic Raider here, if you happen to be watching this and you've heard somebody who's told you to unbind backpedal, they're a fucking moron. Do not listen to them. I am, like, extremely good at the game, and I'm telling you, do not fucking unbind backpedal. Anybody who tells you that because, like, backpedaling has a stigma and, like, high-level Mythic Plus keys, and, like, yeah, obviously, if you're kiting mobs and stuff, don't backpedal. You shouldn't, just because you have it down doesn't mean you should use it all the time, but there are genuine situations in high-level content where backpedaling for, like, precision movement is good. Do not fucking unbind your backpedal key. I cannot stress this enough. But unfortunately, some people get baited. So, one of the judges who was testing my course got baited, unbound her backpedal key, I don't know when, so she saw me doing these, like, backwards hops and was like, oh, I can't do that. So this is impossible. Now, you can forwards hop this. If you angle it right, you have to slam your face into the invisible wall, and, like, when your momentum carries past the invisible wall, you land directly onto the head. But that's, like, so much harder to line up than if you just back hop it here. Like, I could show you the forward hop. I know for a fact it's possible. I've tested it. Or I could just first try back hop it, because, like, it's just easier. So jumps like this are interesting, where if you, like, this post is angled in such a way, I had to very carefully fine-tune this. It's a hard jump. A lot of people actually said that this is, like, the second hardest jump in this room for them onto this post. If you're on, like, 0% speed, you're going to aim basically straight forward for, like, the edge of this post. People who are very high speed, like, whenever I'm doing this on, like, a 50% move speed, like, Druid and Cat form type thing, you aim for, like, the backboard, right? Like, you're playing basketball. You ricochet off here and land over here. And, like, medium speed, 20%, you aim for the middle of the post because it's further away. So I'm going to try to aim for, like, the edge here. And I think I can make this. Yeah, make it very easily. This is another interesting one. The very first version of this room, you were just intended to clear this gap, right? Now, that's actually not possible in 0% speed. I think if you have, like, 20%, it is possible to land on, like, the very edge of this tusk. But even at 20% speed, it's, like, insanely precise, and it's literally impossible at low speed. So I added this intermediary torch jump, This one's actually quite tricky. You have to aim yourself kind of like at the wall here and jump like so. And it's another like backboard type jump. Then you got this one, which is quite tricky. Depending on your race, this is why I said tall races are sometimes easier. Even at like 0% speed, like Trolls, Taurens can actually jump on this and like hit a little ledge here and clip onto the top of the tusks. Volpera, like small races, can't. I don't even think Blood Elves can. Then we have this section. So this is a jump that is very, very challenging for short races. A lot of tall races can jump from here and land on the top of the tusk, on like the finicky hitbox. Volpera cannot. So they have like a very, very, very tricky intermediary jump. You have to jump midair back up. They got it first try. Hell yeah. Okay, that's actually very, very hard. I fall a lot of times when doing this. If I one-shot this room, that would be nice. This is another example. I talked about this one before. So the way that this is supposed to work is this little wood paneling in the wall has collision. Right, I think I can show this, actually. And you can jump up here. You'll notice I'm kind of sliding off it with Volpera, because what's happening is when I try to jump, I'm actually, like, my head is bonking on this top wood paneling here. On all of the races, you just go on this, like, lower one, jump onto the higher one, and then you can make this next jump here. Volpera can't. So I put this little wood thing here. It's very subtle, but it barely clips above here. And what happens is when you land on this, your head, you can't really see this, right? But I fine-tuned it, barely pokes above this hitbox, so you don't get, like, stuck under here. So then you can jump onto this as you're supposed to be able to, and then jump onto this next platform. Really finicky fine-tuning to make that work for Volpera, but it works there. So now, what most people consider to be the hardest jump in my entire puzzle, a lot of people have asked me why I put this at the end of room 1, and not later on, and the answer I always give is because it looks fucking cool, and it just felt right. I really, 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 really wanted to make it so like, some sort of chandelier you have to land on. And it didn't really feel well suited for any of the other rooms, especially as we get later on, the concepts just get way more wacky and wacky. And one of the rooms I thought, like, maybe I could try to integrate it, but it's Blood Elf themed, and the Blood Elf chandeliers just don't work for this. So the only chandelier that I could find that had a hitbox that seemed like it would work well for this type of thing is this thing. It's a Kultiran chandelier. But since this room, the Cozy Cabin, is like low-key enough where I'm just kind of blending a bunch of different like rustic vibes together, I felt that this still fit within the context of this room. So even though it is technically room 1, it works really well here, and I didn't know it was going to be this hard, but it's a fucking brutal jump. But every single person who has tested this and tried the jump agrees it's sick as hell. And I do not regret making this, even if it is really hard. So normally, if you are a larger race or a high-speed race, you jump from here. You jump from the edge of this post, and you land there. You can see a little spike coming out of the chandelier. You land there, then you hop onto the other chandelier post, this is the most demonic jump in the entire puzzle, and then you have to jump through the gap. Thing with Volpera, they actually can't get enough distance, especially on 0% speed. So you have to walk your way onto this little spike sticking out from the fence post. Lordaeron fence post, by the way, fucking goat. I use so many of these in the puzzle. They are amazing. They have such a well-defined hitbox, and these little spikes are here, and 1 decor each. Absolutely beautiful. They are, so far, my favorite fence post to use. And I'm probably going to fuck this up, but YOLO. Oh, I made it! Oh, fuck yes! Okay. This is so tricky. Oh. This is so tricky. This jump, like, I've done this a billion times, and it still fucks me up. Okay, yeah, this one's fucking crazy. So you have to backwards hop from this post and land. You see this little fucking spike? It's a land on the tip of this spike. It's fucking evil, and I'm so glad that I made it, because it has pissed off so many people who've tried my puzzle, but they all agreed, like I said, it's sick as hell. First try, let's go. Oh, first try! Oh my god! I mean, admittedly, I've done this like a million times, so I have the muscle memory down, but I normally still fall multiple times. And then, don't fuck the easy jump. Oh, yes! Okay. Oh, holy shit, I just one-shot the hardest room. Okay. Whew. Maybe I won't need to build myself any skips. Yeah, I fucking love the chandelier jump. I'm really glad I made it, like I said. I'm really happy with how this turned out. So initially there was no little ledge thing here. I don't want to risk like jumping out here, but this actually has a hitbox, and the way this hitbox works is it's really forgiving. I actually added this as like a safety net, because if you like are too slow and fall, you sometimes land on this thing, but it will catch you. And it has a hitbox. It's really generous. Then you just jump up into the flap. So I figured if you make that disgusting chandelier jump, this jump is insanely forgiving. And I really like the little curtain idea here. A lot of this jumping puzzle, right? Like I kind of mind paint it, right? Like I have an idea in my head of like what I want it to look like. And then I just look through the core catalog to see like what can I do to bring my vision to life. And when I thought about this room, I love the idea of, because I had already, for context, right, I had designed like half the puzzle, and then I went back and revamped the starting thing. Initially this was like a very basic tutorial, and then I revamped it into what it is now. So I had already done the garden. This was already like mostly complete, so I knew that this was going to be the final jump, like the passageway to get to the next room. And I love the idea of you're on the outside of the house. It looks like this tiny little cabin positioned like on these stilts, right? And then you walk in here, and I think a lot of people genuinely uh, got that impression of it's just a tiny little cozy house on top of these stilts. Okay, and then they walk out the door. And it really is almost disguised, right? But then you look around and you see like, oh, what's that curtain doing up there? And then you look at the right angle, right? If you angle your camera, you can see through the little thing, the little room poking out. I tried to like, is this 200%? I don't think it is. Yeah, no, I could have like sized this higher to block out the view, but I intentionally left these little gaps here so that you could see in here. And people did that. They angled their camera. They tried to see like little glimpses of the next room. Like, oh, I want to see what's behind that curtain. So many people, whenever like I would build them a skip to the next room, they're like, oh, I can finally see behind the curtain. So I think, honestly, like this transitions so well from like the vision I had of it in my head into how it actually turned out in reality. I could not be happy with how like the curtain blocking the room is, and like so many people will like I can watch their POVs like when they're streaming, they're visiting and like touring of my house, right? And I'll be like even levitating them up here, and then you just see like they pass through the curtain, it flaps back, and the entire like I mean, I'm gonna be honest, I'm really fucking proud of this room. I think it looks fucking gorgeous. And they see the entire garden, they're just like, oh my fucking god, right? Because you don't know what to expect when you're in this first room. It looks like just a very basic room, and then you see this and you have no fucking clue what to expect for the rest of this, because like that's just a bunch of basic decor arranged in normal way. Like here, I fucking kit bashed a garden, and like, is it the craziest garden I've ever seen? No, but do I still think it looks damn good? Yeah. I think it turned out really well. So I think that when you see this, you realize like, okay, this is not just like people. There's a lot of jumping puzzles, right? Like just furniture floating in the air. This is like, we're gonna get some crazy fucking themes going on, and obviously I took it even further as we continue going. What is going on with my camera here? What just happened? Also, you know, want to focus on the little decor, right? Obviously, I have the whole Pandaria vibe throughout the entire room. I did have some extra stuff in the corner here. The reality of like being this close to budget is I did have to cut some stuff that's like, I think it makes the room pop, and I just trimmed it. Like the kitchen I had to trim down a little bit is what it is, right? A lot of stuff happened like that. What I'm planning to do is obviously, you know, for my housing thing, I have a shitload of experience banked up. The moment Midnight releases, I'm going to gain a lot more decor space, and I'm going to quickly go back, like spend maybe 200 decor, just like adding little things to different parts of the rooms that I had to trim earlier. And then we're going to start building additional rooms. I'm going to expand this motherfucker. Some slight notes here. Looks like, yeah, there's some weird shit that happens where, like, your objects in your house get, like, randomly rotated a few degrees. It annoys the hell out of me. I'm just, like, so fucking over trying to fix it every single time I come in, but you can see that happened a little bit here. It's whatever. These are Lorewalker's bookcases, so I really wanted to have, like, some clear, defined separation between the garden and stuff. So we have, like, your regular tiling here, then the Lorewalker's bookcases is the clear dividing line, and it looks like, you know, a Chinese wood, like, red vibe that matches with all this other stuff, and it clearly separates. Like, these are all obviously green rugs that are clipped in here. Like, if you've looked into any WoW housing things, you probably already know how this particular illusion is created. right? These are also circular wooden rugs, and then like the edges of the rugs and the water effector. I put stones around here to whatever. Am maybe I'm showing too much of like the how the magic happens, but I think it's fun to explain the illusion, right? One little thing, stuff like this, right? Like, this is all obviously separate little decor pieces. Like, is this relevant for the puzzle at all? No. But one of the nice things about this is, like, people see this and they're like, oh, why is this here? Like, surely this must be part of the puzzle. So a lot of people see them run into the room. First thing people look at is the dragon statue. They try to jump up here. It looks like you can kind of jump on it. You can't. Right, you jump around it a little bit. You give up. Okay, where do I jump? Here. Can't get up there. Let me try to jump on this. Nope, not working. I'm gonna jump over here. There's this little thing here. Oh, clearly. I see it. I see it. I definitely see the start of the puzzle. I'm gonna jump on this little keg and jump up top here. Clever, right? And I'm gonna jump on this little roof. Okay. And, where do I go here? Where's the next jump? I have to jump onto the cactus? I got so many people who try my puzzle, because I have a few friends, right, on my BNet, and they'll stop by my house. And it's so funny, we're like, they won't tell me they're trying it, but I'll just get a message, something like, I'm at the cactus jump. How do I do this? I'm like, send me a screenshot. And they're standing here. They're like, I don't think this is possible. I can't reach the cactus. And I'm like, well, the cactus jump is obviously part of the course. But are you sure you're in the right spot? Are you sure you actually found the correct start of the puzzle? And then they realize this is a complete diversion. This is just decor. It's not part of the puzzle at all. The puzzle actually starts here. Go over here. Jump onto the statue. I have to zoom in my camera for this room. Jump here. This is another thing this is unfortunate, right? So this is an intended part of the puzzle. You jump off like the backsplash here, the wall, to make this jump. This has become like trickier over time because originally in room 1, I think I mentioned, a few of the jumps deliberately required you to jump off this part of the wall. And because they didn't exactly work well with Volpera or things like that, you can still do it that way, but I added like intermediary jumps to allow you to bypass that. So the end result is that a few people have actually cleared floor 1 now, made it to this part, and not realized that you're supposed to use the walls as part of that. But when I initially designed this room, I designed it was like room 1 basic tutorial, then I fully finished this room. So obviously I was assuming that you had that knowledge in mind, of you can jump off those little things, and then, like, this wouldn't really trip you up at all. But a lot of people I've seen have kind of gotten confused about that, which, yeah, I mean, most people seem to figure it out eventually, right? Because you'll realize very quickly that there is no other way to get up, and then you'll realize, oh, I gotta... Fuck me. I'm full sending it, but I'm at a wrong angle. What I need to be doing is backpedaling, which, again, backpedaling comes in clutch, right? To do micro adjustments here. And I think I can probably just fucking send it from here, yeah. Speaking of backpedaling in higher-end content, right? Like my guild was doing a Mythic Dementius reclear today. Try tanking P3 Mythic Dementius without your fucking backpedal key bound. The amount of times when, like, you're stationed between, like, 3 fucking one-shot black holes, and you have to, like, very carefully backpedal your character, like, to maneuver into position, because there's, like, a very precise spot where it's like, I need to stand here so I don't instantly die and take half my raid team with me. Anybody, I think, playing at a high enough level where, like, they have to do that should understand that. But then again, I've also heard some horror stories of people's prog on Dementius being, like, completely scuffed because they have shit tanks who don't know how to do P3. And I think that's, like, a big reason, right? Like, P3 is so careful positioning heavy. And a lot of tanks are, like, complete fucking shitters who hear bad advice, like, unbind your backpedal key and then just, like, unironically believe it. So this is a jump that's, like, a little bit harder on Volpera, because, again, you have to get into the air and then back up. Yeah, it can be a little bit easy to overshoot that. But a few people be like, I'm going to jump in here. And then they realize, oh, fuck. I can't make any jumps from here. That's bait. You don't want to jump in there. It's technically recoverable. I've seen it happen. But the real jump is... Oh, I should note, by the way, before I actually show it. So a few things. One, the main reason this hanging screen is here is because in the original version of this room, you could jump up here, Goblin Glider, and go straight into the doorway here. Now, it is technically still possible to Goblin Glider and, like, do a perfect hook around the hanging curtains, hook back, and, like, land on this little lip here and jump through the door. I tested it, and it's possible. And I'm like, fuck it, whatever. Because, like, the very first clear of this room ever, when it was, like, in version 1.0, somebody just goblin glidered through the entrance. And I'm like, okay, fuck off. Now, I can't prevent against that entirely, right? Just like I can't prevent against demon hunters. But what I found is that by adding this wall, a lot of people just don't even consider it, even if it is possible. And I think that the longer that I can get somebody to want to do my course as intended before they feel the need to cheat, you know, I'd consider that a win. Eventually, people are going to be like, fuck it, I'm going to cheat, right? Like, so many people do that. Whatever. You know, they're only cheating themselves. But if I can design it in such a way where, like, you don't see this wide open pathway and think, I'm going to Goblin Glider that, and instead it, like, directs your focus over here, I'd consider that a win. So that's why it's designed like that. You don't actually jump off here. A few people have gotten, like, misled by that. And also, I did have one person who did, like, a disengage and landed on top of this bookshelf, which, like, again, I can't play around class tech like that. It's very precise, but if you do it properly, then you can actually kind of, from the top area over here, disengage over this little trellis and land in the doorway, which, you know, skips like that. I think if it requires specific class tech and the people doing it find it fun, fuck it. Like, I'll leave it. I initially considered patching this out, and I had, like, I had something placed here to make that impossible, but then I'm just like, I'm spending 5 decor to prevent some, like, extremely niche skip tech. Fuck it. I need that budget elsewhere. So I left that in. I like this jump, by the way. You know, little bookcase, and there's a hanging shelf here. I think this is really neat. This is an interesting jump, right? Because a lot of people see this and they're like, what the fuck is this? This is devious, right? Like, there's a giant pit here. You have to, like, jump and land on this. You actually don't need to jump at all. It's a walk-off. And there's a lot of things like that throughout the puzzle where it's like, you don't jump at all. You just get into the right angle, walk forward, and let your momentum carry you. And this is one of the most interesting parts of the puzzle for me, because almost every single one of my friends who's tested this gets here, and they're like, I have no fucking idea where to go. And they'll send me, like, multiple screenshots of, like, I think this is the angle, right? Some of them are like, do I have to intentionally climb up here? Do I have to somehow jump off this hanging curtain? That doesn't look possible, right? Am I supposed to jump and land on this little ledge along the trellis, right? Am I supposed to fit through this little gap? That doesn't seem possible, right? And I'm always like, look around. Whenever you're doing a jumping puzzle, like, don't look at, like, the step that you're on. Because, yeah, you may be stuck at the step that you're on, but look further. What's the rest of the puzzle, right? What's the step after the step that you're on? Is there other stuff there? If you see nothing, well then, yeah, maybe it's like the chandelier jump, and that is what you're supposed to do. But, like, okay, I have this little table here. Why is the table there? The table's right below the exit. You can see this is the exit. But if the goal was to just make this jump, then why would I have the little table down here? That wouldn't make sense. So, if you think that you're supposed to jump onto the table, how do you get to the table? And then you see the fucking dragon. The dragon, which most people, by the way, start the puzzle trying to jump onto, now it goes full circle. This was intentional. I'm really happy with the dragon jump. This is another one that a lot of playtesters really, really liked. And the thing is, it seems so hard. Like, this is insanely precise, right? How do you line this up? Well, how did you get onto this trellis? How do you get onto the dragon head? It's a walk-off. And do you know how fucking hard it was to, like, make this precise? It works, by the way, on multiple speeds. Like, it's pretty forgiving. You can walk off at, like, pretty high speed and still, like, land on the other side of the dragon head. This is a super fucking elegant jump, and the amount of fine-tuning it took to make this work, dear lord. But it's so fucking sick. It, like, has a perfect hitbox to allow this to happen. It's such a unique item. It perfectly fits the vibe. It has the perfect hitbox to allow this walk-off to naturally fit into the course, but the lower body of the dragon has a very weird hitbox and doesn't allow you to jump up here. And I tried, like, lots of different variations. Even on a Demon Hunter, this is very precise, landing on this. But from that particular angle, it works. And it works really fucking well. I'm very happy with how this jump turned out. This one is a little tricky. For some reason, a lot of people, like, try to do weird shit here. You just jump, right? Like, it's very forgiving. And this one, I felt comfortable putting in here because, for the record, this is possible. It's possible to jump up here. I'm not going to attempt it because on Volpera, I don't think it is possible. But I've seen people, like, find some, like, basically non-existent ledge and, like, bounce their way up here, which is fucking crazy. But the solution is, there's, like, this little hanging foliage, right? So you can't really see clearly, but there's a fucking stool hidden in there. And if you click the stool, boop, you're done. Also, I technically didn't one-shot room 2, but I did all the hard parts first try, so we're off to a pretty good start here. And we're only 50 minutes into the video. All right, sure. This room is unfortunately the biggest recipient of my budget cuts, so I had this room like way more lively. The way that I envisioned this room is like this was going to be like a nice little fun hangout space in the middle of the puzzle. And a lot of times in testing, when I had like one of my friends' Mythic Plus groups came by here to test it, and a bunch of them were just like fucking around, like hanging out in the furniture while like some of them tried to do the jumps and kept falling. So that was kind of the vibe I was going for. I did have to trim it heavily though. And again, when I get more budget, I'm going to come back in here. Like, this space is very empty. I took some stuff out. This is empty. It's a little bit empty. I'm going to, like, brighten up the lighting, add some more decor. There was a bunch more hanging curtains and stuff that I had to take out because it just didn't add anything to the puzzle. So I'd love to add more here. There's also, like, when we get extra room budget, in some areas where I feel it's necessary, I might add, like, closets. Because you can do a lot with closets. Just, like, having this little extra pocket of space here, right? Like, I might do that just to have, like, you know, a little cubby, like a little bedroom, like side bedroom or something like that. I don't know what I'll do with it. But unrelated to the jumping puzzle, one room budget to make this room feel more lively, I think would be nice. Just to add to it. We'll see, though. I also do want to add a lot more real jumping puzzle rooms, so I don't know how much I can afford. But, so one interesting thing, this is another funny case, right? So, the original version of this puzzle, when I did this, like, very first time, this is how you were supposed to get up here. Because, again, I wanted you to play with, like, the walls to, like, climb the wall and get onto this furniture, right? And when I added a bunch of decor, originally, like I said, there was a lot more stuff in here. There was, like, a little mirror and, like, you know, candelabra and fancy stuff. But I just added a little bench here because, like, a neat little bench, right? You know, with dressing area. And then what I realized is people thought this was the start of the puzzle, and it works. Like, it lines up perfectly. There's obviously another way to get up here, but despite trimming all of the other decor, this is technically completely optional, but I kept it here because this was like, what do you call it, like a desire path? So many people, I'd say like 90% of playtesters saw this as the start and jumped off here. And like, who am I to say they're wrong? It actually kind of works out really nicely. So I kept this in here, even though it's technically not a necessary jump. Now, this weapon rack, the hitbox on this is really janky, and what I really wanted to do is add, like, something like a sword here. I'm hoping we get the option in the first place, because this second holder thing, for whatever reason, is just really janky. It has a weird hitbox. So, you can, like, obviously make this work. This is actually one of the rare cases where it's actually a little bit easier on Volpera. Taller races can do this, but if they jump wrong, they'll bonk their head and fall. So Volpera actually, this particular jump is maybe one of the only ones where they have an edge. But then unfortunately they have an immediate downside, and that jump is like stupid hard on small races for whatever reason. The hitbox is just not very forgiving. Yeah, and still, even then, sometimes I bonk my head. I'm going to do this just because it is faster. One of the interesting things about this section of the puzzle is, I would actually say in this particular room, these jumps are, like, fairly precise. They're very, very hard. But a lot of times with my room design, I was okay with that, with jumps feeling ridiculously hard if they're at the start. Kind of the chandelier jump is the one that really breaks the mold, and I do think it's arguably a little bit unfair, because it's like a brutally hard jump at the very end of a puzzle. But in this room, it seems kind of tricky, but the jumps actually get easier and easier, like mechanically speaking, as you go on. This one, so interesting thing here, when I initially tested it, you can just jump into the wall and climb up. Volpera are not tall enough to reach. And initially I'm like, oh, maybe I need to change it, but it turns out you can stand on this, and you can make the jump if you stand on it. But that is an extra jump that no other races except like the small ones needs to do. And it makes it a lot harder. So that's why I said it's like significantly harder if you do this on tiny races. We can make it here. These are not like wall decor, by the way. It's kind of hard to see from a distance. These are actually Silver Moon interior pillars clipped into the wall. Because initially, I think you can see what I was going for, right? You jump here, walk around, jump here, and then I realized that these have really slippery hitboxes, but the interior pillars look basically the same, and they do not have slippery hitboxes. So I decided to just keep the original idea for my puzzle, but just use the pillars as a workaround. And then here we have a... Okay, almost slid off there. Standard jumping puzzle fare. Got some pillars. It looks really scary. Again, really easy jumps here. Just aim for the edge. Say that as I almost fall. This one is interesting. So this is actually a little bit challenging on Volpera. Okay, I fell off. That's unfortunate. I'm not going to do that entire thing again. We're doing our first skip. I'm going to show you how I usually do skips in these puzzles. I hop in a bathtub. And... oh no, I need to do it like this. Yeah. And I get my skip way back up to the top. Especially because this is actually an extremely easy jump on everything but a short race. And I'll just delete it here. You can jump on here, and then jump all the way over here. You can jump from here. What I'll probably do, what I usually do on Volpera, because it's a lot more consistent, is just jump here, and then... oh, this is tricky. Okay, there we go. It's really finicky because sometimes you're walking along the edge, and the ground just gives way, and you fall, and you can't really tell. It looks the same either way, but it's just your hitbox is, marginally clipped. So you land here. This is a really interesting jump, because the way that you're supposed to do it, and I'll show you, is you jump onto this little top here, onto the little entryway. But what one of my playtesters found is they didn't notice this. So they thought, oh, I just need to jump over the torch and land on this pillar, which is, fucking incredibly precise. And they did it first try, and they were just like, oh, wow, that pillar jump is kind of crazy, but I just, nailed it. I'm like, what pillar jump? And they showed me the screenshot of what they did, and I was like, how the fuck is that the thing that you just did first try? Only one playtester did that. Well, a lot of other people tried, donked their head on the torch, and fell, and then you lose all progress. This jump is significantly easier. A lot of people kind of get, psyched out by this. It looks like I don't have room to walk. You just jump into it. And then this, I have specifically designed this so it looks really scary, oh, I'm about to fall. Ah. And then you get caught, right? It gets caught on the ledge here. This is intentional. There was originally a version of this puzzle where you actually did need to make an insane precision jump of jump then barely midair, back yourself up so you land on the tip of this, and if you don't, you slide down. And I thought that was too mean, so I took that out. This way, as long as you're straight with your jump, and you don't accidentally shoot to the left or right, you make it to the end. And this is the Argusian Abyss. I love this room. Well, this set of rooms. So obviously, right, elephant in the room. This took a shitload of time to make. Every time somebody comes here, they're like, how long did you spend on this? And I'm just like, only an entire week of real time doing all this for the remaining rooms. So this is, I think for this type of video, right, you're already here for so long. May as well give you a peek behind the curtain of how this was made. Right, so obviously the idea is meant to simulate outer space. This is supposed to be the deck of a Legion spaceship, the Centenax, the Paraxis, etc. And part of that is, this little console area, and the idea behind this was, I wanted to make a Legion room, but with the amount of Legion decor we have right now, how do you make that really work? And I thought of this concept, but then I didn't want to make just, another room where you're just jumping up. Up a generic area to reach the next checkpoint. This is where I want to, show the floor plan, right? This is where I specifically changed how the floor plan worked. If we go back down to floor 1, the original version of this is just first room, jump up to the top second room. Second room, jump up to the top third room. Third room, jump up to the top fourth room. And then I'm like, okay, well, the original, when I sat here for 2 minutes making my original floor plan when I first got into housing on day 1, I just was like, for science, can I make an endless spiral upwards and just keep doing empty staircase rooms wrapping around in a giant spiral? And the answer is yes, you can. Because the main thing that pissed me off is empty stairwell rooms give you 2 levels of space if they are separated. But if you go upwards and you add another level to an existing empty stairwell room, it only gives you one level of space. So you're getting half the space for the exact same amount of budget. And when I saw that, that's when I'm like, well, if instead of doing that and making one giant jumping puzzle tower, what if I made multiple different interconnected rooms to effectively double the space that I'm working with? I can make double the jumping puzzle, can't talk, double the jumping puzzle with the exact same budget. Wouldn't that be sick? And that is how this idea was originally born. But then we reach a point where I'm like, okay, well, that's all well and good, but is that going to be like literally every single room? It's just going to be all like, it wraps around the walls until it reaches the next stage. Like, that's kind of boring, right? So when I got to this room, this was like the turning point, and I'm like, I want to do something weird with these next few rooms. I don't want you to feel like you're just going through the exact same jumping puzzle, but reskinned like 7 times. So we change it up here, right? You get into this room, and like, you can see that there's stuff above you, but you cannot get there. Like, Demon Hunters obviously can, but even like regular speed boosts, there is no way to parkour up these walls. You cannot get there. So there's only one way forward, and that's to jump on this console and just jump into space. And that was the idea behind this. I wanted you to walk down a hallway after having done all of these different jumping puzzles. The only way is to just go forward, walk down a hallway, and jump voluntarily down into the abyss. That is the envision. It's very hard to pull this off in a super good way, but I think that I captured my vision good enough, right? And the Legion spaceship, just to dissect this a little bit, so we have obviously circular woolen rugs, we have Stormwind Hall rugs, dyed. This is another circular woolen rug, but flipped, so the design kind of plays into it, like the circular design. Black Harvest Orrery, flipped upside down for this little like pedestal thing. This is just a hollow communicator. In order to clip out some of these wooden beams, there's slate cobblestone here, dyed, to basically look like, you know, the broken edge of a Legion ship. The Legion parts is flipped corruption pits. You can use these things down here as well, fell fountains, but corruption pits give you more space. You can see, unfortunately, the rotation bug has exposed some of the floor here, but that is like a better way to cover more room and basically save on budget if you don't use fell fountains. I think I actually did use one. Yeah, I have one in there, but whatever. Obviously, the walls, they are all circular woolen rugs carpeting the entire sides over here. We have some Legion spaceships off in the distance. These are Legion's Fell Torches, obviously rotated and sized in a way. It's the same ones as these, but I wanted to use perspective to make it look like it's a Legion spaceship off in the distance, speeding off. There's little candles clipped into the wall. I have a little big, like, Legion shattered planet here with fire coming out. I'm particularly happy with this one. It looks like a rock, like a meteorite has struck the ship, and there's fire coming out of it. One's pretty simple, just a slate cobblestone and stuff. You have some, like, little asteroids off in the distance. Oh, yeah, and then also Titanic tear-hold fountains for the railing here. I tried a bunch of different things. Surprisingly, it is really hard to achieve this type of effect, because what I wanted to do is have a rectangular walkway that allows me to blend these different textures here, because I wanted to make it look like the pathway on a Legion ship, and they have very distinct textures, but they are not, like, they do not mesh nicely, because these are circular textures. These are also kind of broken circular textures. There's no way to just make them cleanly meet up in a line and, like, there's your divider. So you need some sort of barrier here. And I'm like, okay, well, I have, like, a little railing walkway here. I wanted to make it look roughly rectangular, but I also wanted it to be metal, to kind of look like the rest of the ship, or at least a flat color. This passes as metal. I mean, it technically is supposed to be metal. It's part of a big metal fountain. If they're flipped upside down, barely clipped through the top of the floor. You'd never know it's a Titanic tear-hold fountain, right? And I tried a few different things. Initially, I was using actually flipped Suramar libraries, because they have kind of like a metal bottom, but that was just way too expensive to, like, fit the entirety of this area here. So this actually ended up being the cheapest option decor-wise, which may seem crazy, right? It's all like 5 here. And sure, you could put, like, wooden beams, but right now, all of the beams, right, if I look here, wood, 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 marble. Like, there's no metal beam. And you can tell. Like, if I put a beam here, I tried. Like, it's very noticeable that it's, like, a piece of wood. And, like, a piece of wood just does not match the Legion spaceship vibe. I could not go with that. So this was the best way that I could think of to, like, fit the illusion. So, okay. We stand on top of the Legion Holo communicator. Let's glance out into space. You can see I've had like a little stars, some planets over here. There's some like stuff off in the distance, a little rock with like some energy pipes coming out of it. A little lighthouse off in the middle of nowhere. And there's like some rocks and stuff. There's a big Draenei crash spaceship over here. Can't really get to that though. What can I jump to? So this is one thing that a lot of people see here, and I did think about this. I figured that everybody's initial thought is, where do I jump to? And they're going to find some place in this room that they can jump to and land on. And there are some spots. So a lot of people try to jump for like this barrel, which I think with enough speed is makeable, but you usually fall. You can land on this rock, but it doesn't really get you much progress. The best point to jump to that you can make it is this rock. If you get the angle just right, and I missed, and it's hard. It is not easy to make that jump. But I have somehow, once or twice, clipped myself to the side of this rock and made like a perfect standing jump to get on top of here. And if you do that, you skip like 2/3 of this initial section of the jumping puzzle. And like, if you do that, whatever, good for you. It's a really hard jump, but I fine-tuned all of this stuff to make sure it was like, it looks barely makeable, but it's not. And that's intentional because you're supposed to start here. So from the starting point of that console, you can't really make it to many points in the intermediate section of the puzzle because the intent is to start at the bottom here. So inevitably, somebody's going to fall and they're going to land here, and then they're going to have to do the puzzle the intended way because very few people are going to do the skip and then one-shot it first try. So these are meant to look like little cannons, like the prongs off a Legion spaceship. Climb along here, jump, land on this little lip here on the edge of the asteroid. Jump here. Or zoom my camera in a little more. Then you have to jump onto this here and land on the little lip here. Jump around, land on this floating barrel. I'm going to jump here, land on this rock. And then jump. Alright. Hitboxes in some of these objects are very forgiving though, and that is nice. And then gotta make sure that we have the floating Elec here. I figured that, like, so many people have used the plushie for different things. I wanted to make sure that was at least one of the jumps. I'm gonna zoom my camera in here just to make this easy. Land on this. Oh, it's a really precise jump. And then this. Oh, I fucked it. I fucked it. Oh, I can't believe I fucked that. That's one of the problems with the plushie, though. It's like, it's very tiny. Very, very tiny. So, like, landing on it, you can kind of do it. But then doing a standing jump off the plushie, ooh. Because, right, like, when you're moving forward in WoW, you gain speed. But some of these jumps, like, this is a very confined space. So it tests, like, a different ability. The other ones were all, like, these very long jumps, like, how am I going to jump from, like, across this gap? These gaps are all, like, very, very tiny. But if you fuck it up, you need to get, like, a very specific angle. And you have to make jumps off, like, very tight spaces. It's testing, like, a different ability. Which is what I wanted. Like I said, I wanted these rooms to be different. I didn't want it to all be, like, the same puzzle reskinned. So, like, room 2 has, like, some walk-offs. I don't use walk-offs in, like, every single room, but there are some of them. And room 2 has, like, 2 very iconic walk-offs. And, like, the trellis and the dragon statue. Those are different. If I spend, like, another minute or two here, I'm just, like, I'm really tired. I'm fucking this shit up, and you've already seen all of this stuff. So it is time for bathtub skips. Boost myself up to the Elec. Ah! I should not have recorded this while I'm, like, extremely tired and probably going to sleep soon, but, you know, it is what it is. I gotta get this footage at some point, and I am very, very, very busy most of the time. One thing that, you know, I will want to draw attention to a little bit is I tried to use, like, the slate cobblestone paths to look like a little asteroid belt. They are dyed to kind of, like, match the color of these rocks, right? This is not their natural color. This is the paint that I found makes them look closest to the boulders, which obviously you can't dye. So the idea is you're supposed to be jumping into, like, the hollowed out section of a gigantic asteroid in the middle of this larger asteroid belt. Let's see here. That's the idea. All right, yeah. Once you actually hit jump successfully, so we're in this like a little hollowed out section of the asteroid. And there's like a little Draenei house here, little Draenei escape pod. One funny thing is like the hitbox in this is a little bit wonky. It's hard to see, but normally, if I hadn't done anything fancy, you would fall through here and fall through the floor. There's actually a lot of very safe carpets or rugs or whatever. Very safe rugs put in place here to block off the hitboxes so you can't clip yourself through the floor. And that would not be good. You would get stuck. Soft lock yourself. So we have this little tent here. It's a little Draenei house crashed inside. You can see there's like a little Draenei window, and I land here. There's a little bit of water, a little cool water at the bottom of this little crashed Draenei ship. I look up, there's like crystals sticking out of the ceiling. Pieces of what looks like a Draenei house from, you know, the shattered remnants of Argus drifting through space. This is the vibe that I was going for. I want to expand this, by the way. What I'm probably going to do is, like, I said I might add some closets. This is almost certainly a candidate for a closet, because this is, like, basically the midway point of the house. I think I will add, like, a closet or a small room here, and instead of the puzzle naturally continuing like this, you'll have to, like, go into the small room. I'll, like, reshape it a little bit and do, like, maybe not a super difficult puzzle, but, like, at least a few small jumps to, like, wrap around and then exit out, like, a tiny little hole and then get to this section here, and this will be the exit. And then you exit down here, and woo, we're in space. So, in the asteroid belt, in the previous room, you could see a little mana forge off in the distance. And now that we've, like, gone into the asteroid and wrapped around the other side, our asteroid is, like, drifted in space, and we've gone closer to the mana forge, right? And I played with perspective. This is your Legion ship that you jumped off of. It's flying off into the distance. Goodbye, Legion ship. And if we stand here on the edge of our little Draenei asteroid and look at the mana forge, you can see it's on a gigantic rock. And at the very bottom of the rock, you can see pipes off in the distance, right? And, like, that's the idea that I'm going for. It's supposed to be, like, it's not Mana Forge Omega, but it's, like, I use that as an inspiration. So Mana Forge Omega is, like, on this gigantic rock floating out in space. This is, like, the Mana Forge itself. This is the rock that it's positioned on. And you can see, like, this is the bottom of the rock. Now, obviously, if we go up super close, you can see I just sized down the pipes like this. I'm ruining the illusion. Oh, no. But, like, anybody can do this if they really want to. But this is the idea. And obviously I'm not going to build like another gigantic set of boulders, so I have to use my budget wisely, right? We're at budget cap. So how do I simulate a gigantic floating rock in outer space without building yet another gigantic floating rock in outer space? Well, I make the rest of it out of black carpets. I use the regular like cobblestone wall here, and I try to wrap the perspective in such a way that it looks like this is just part of a, you know, big shattered landmass and stuff. Is my perspective design successful? Does it look like shit? You can let me know in the comments below. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out, though, and really that's all that matters. So, for our puzzle section, got a little Draenei telescope here. I'm gonna jump off here. And I'm gonna zoom in my camera a little bit. Funny little note. I've realized that your camera, if I extend it out, like, super far, it blocks, like, certain items will block it, but eventually there's going to be a little seam that my camera will catch on, and it'll pass into the other room. And, like, yeah, I can't get it to do that right now, which is good, I guess. I don't want it to clip through the wall. But what you will notice is that as you're doing my puzzle, if your camera distance is super far, you'll randomly clip into, like, the previous room for a second, and it'll block your vision. That doesn't happen if you have walls. So there's objects like interior walls, and they fully block camera line of sight. So if I had the budget, right, I would actually inside these two layers, because like if I go to the floor plan, right, so it's kind of hard to see, but for stairwell room, you can see like the Legion spaceship is here. Obviously, this is entirely coded. Then you go into this little section. So this was the first area with like the Elec jump and stuff. This is basically 1/3 of the room. And you're in this little pocket of space jumping around. You enter the asteroid. The asteroid takes up this section. You're like working your way down here. And then we're now in the other 2/3 of this single empty stairwell room. But in order to make this divide successful, there's actually 2 layers of carpets facing outward on either side. Now, if I had the budget, I would put interior walls in here. So it would be an interior wall layered this way, and then the carpets would still be here, but they'd just be like blocking the walls, instead of right now where the carpets are just kind of smushed together and there's a bit of empty space. Now that would accomplish two things. One, it would avoid any weird camera jankiness, and the camera should always behave as you want it to. But sometimes if there's like a tiny pixel-wide seam in the carpets, your camera will just shoot right through it. So that's the downside. The other thing is, you cannot blink or teleport through the interior walls. They have different, like, because they have different line of sight stuff that works with the camera, it also works with abilities like Mage Blink. Right now, mages can just blink through here. And a lot of them have, not even intentionally, they've just pressed blink, boom, they get stuck in my wall. Now, they can obviously get out. There's actually a little, I put a little, whatever it is, Arcane Eye. This thing, because I've spent them all. Let me, Arcane, or it's like Mage's Eye, right? Yeah, this thing. So, you can see I've placed 3 of these, and 2 of them are under here, in the bottom of this room. So, there's like little cubbies under there where like you can't get there through the regular jumping puzzle, and I stuck like little mage's eyes there because the only way that you can get there is with like blink effects. So I figured if a mage accidentally blinks in the wrong direction and ends up in that like back rooms area of my puzzle, they'll see a little floating mage eye there and they'll think, hey, I found a little mage secret. So I could either invest like 50 decor into making sure you can't get into there by adding like a million boulders, or I could just add a single mage's eye and make it clear to the mage they're not supposed to be there, and make them feel rewarded for finding this little secret area, and then they just blink out and do the puzzle the intended way. But if I layered this with interior walls, I wouldn't have had to deal with that. You cannot blink through it. Why did I not do that? Well, because each interior wall is like 5 budget. So, yeah. Fuck mages. You know, they can do my puzzle the correct way if they really want to. I am not spending, like, the 50 budget it would take to mage-proof this section of the room. But, higher level, maybe I will. So this part is actually quite hard, because this jump you have to stand, like, here to do, and make, like, a very specific jump here, and if you backpedal at the wrong distance, you'll overshoot this and fall. So I have to make this jump properly. I think I fucked this up. Okay, fine. You can see what I'm trying to do. It's really hard to do. There we go. Yeah, really hard in a Volterra. Much easier on taller races. So we get this section here. Now, originally, people would just jump off here and land on the platform. So to add, like, an intermediary jump, I block this off with, like, a Shattered Draenei house. Obviously, it's using the Shadow Moon greenhouse. And now you have to make this jump, which is, like, fucking really hard. I overshot it. Yeah, that one's rough. Because jumps like that, you can't, like, you know, the thing I said before about, like, aiming for, like, a backboard, right? There is no backboard to aim for there. You gotta just fucking land on it. So, it's tough. This one I don't think is too difficult, so I will... Just gonna get to see me fucking slam my face into this. This is the real jumping puzzle experience. And I should note, people don't really believe me when I say this. Most people spend like an hour per room. You're obviously seeing me clear this having like, I fucking made the thing. And I've play tested this like a bajillion times. So even like sleep deprived me is like able to blast through these relatively quickly. But most people will sit here and fail over and over and over and over and over. Vast majority of people can't even clear room 1. But the people who do clear the rooms, I've had a few very dedicated playtesters who are like, I will fucking clear your puzzle if it's the last thing I do. And the fastest clear I've seen, outside of mine, right? Like I said, I blasted the entire thing in like 36 minutes when I was really dedicated to it. The fastest clear from like, not me, that I've seen is one of the people in the housing contest got it in 1 hour 50, which was really impressive, mind you. Nice. Got that jump. Backpedal fine-tuning. This jump's easy as long as I don't fuck it up. Alright. This jump is also easy if I don't fuck it up. Alright, here we go. It is possible if you, like, you can technically ricochet off here and then, like, land there and get fucked up. And I'm pretty happy with this little doorway. I wanted to make it look like you're going through, like, you know, the entrance to Manaforge Omega. So, like, there are ways that I could do this where it's, like, one-way carpets and stuff to make it look like you're taking a portal, and we'll see more of that. But for the purposes of this portal, I wanted it to look more dynamic, so we used curtains. I also love the curtains. I wanted to use them somewhere, so I figured, like, yeah, does it really feel like you're taking a portal? No, but it's definitely unique. And it definitely feels like, this is not your normal doorway, so you can make it, like, basically, the way that I want to approach this is, like, obviously I have grand visions of what I want these rooms to be, but I also feel like the people playing through it, like, they should approach it with, like, little kid, like, play pretend logic, and, like, imagine you're at a fucking laser tag place, Like, I had this really cool laser tag place that was, like, by my house when I was, like, a kid. A lot of kids had their birthdays there in my school, so we would go there a lot. And, like, the laser tag place had all these, like, fancy outer space things. Like, when I was a kid, I knew I wasn't in outer space. Duh. But, like, it was believable enough to be, like, I could, immerse myself in, like, the theme of the laser tag of, like, you're in outer space, you're, like, there's asteroids and shit. And, like, that was kind of the logic that I went with here. I obviously cannot build literal fucking outer space, especially without skyboxes, in my room. But this actually looks a lot like the fucking laser tag place near my house. And you know what? When I was a little kid, that laser tag place was cool as hell to me. And I still, like, obviously now think, like, this looks really cool. I can tell, I mean, obviously I built the fucking thing. I can tell what I was going for. And most people I've seen have immediately clocked this as like, oh, it's fucking outer space. That's sick. And that's really all I can hope for, right? So same thing here. Like, yeah, you're jumping through curtains. Woo! But, like, there's so many things like that at, like, the laser tag place where it's, like, you're meant to be going through, like, a portal, and it is, like, literally they'll hang, like, sheets in the doorway to, like, obstruct your line of sight. So, like, people can sit on one side of, like, the curtains, and as people push through, they, like, sit there with their fucking laser guns, like, pew, 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 pew. And that's, like, the idea that I'm going for here. And you know what? I think it's sick. Now, I will say, so this room is the Malevolent Mana Forge, and, it's looking a bit empty right now. Fair enough. So here's the problem. These pipes are fucking expensive, man. 5 decor each for, like, all these things. I knew I wanted to have a Mana Forge room. God, it is really expensive building this. This chewed up a huge chunk of my budget. And, like, on one hand, obviously I wanted to make sure that this room was alive, right? Like, I needed to do something here. It's like a coherent puzzle, and there is a solid puzzle in this room. But in a lot of the other rooms, and literally every room we've seen so far, I've tried to add some decor, even if, like, in the Silvermoon room, I had to, like, strip it back a little bit, just so that I had budget for later. Here, yeah, like, normally I would try to put, like, pipes along this entire wall to, like, make this... I had much grander visions of what I was going to do here. And I'm going to be honest, like, when I get more budget, I am completely revamping the next few rooms. The general theme will be the same. Like, overall, I'll probably take the inspiration of a lot of the same jumps and, like, carry it over. But effectively what you're looking at now is, like, these are good, solid jumping puzzles on the themes that I plan to include in the final super-duper ultra version of this house in, like, 2 years from now or something. I don't know. This is an ongoing project, I should note, right? But, like, it's all fairly simple jumps. Oh, can't believe I fucking didn't hit spacebar there. But also, these rooms are much easier. Like, the outer space room, I'll admit, a lot of people have said, like, it's a good bit easier. The, like, the Elec jump and stuff, that can actually get you. Like, got me here, and I had to skip it with the bathtub. But overall, compared to the earlier rooms, the outer space room is quite simple, and most playtesters commented on that. And that one is more of, like, necessity, right? I went for, like, rule of cool over, like, really hard jumps, and because I spent so much decor, like, building the space, it is hard to really fit in insanely technical jumps like I have in the earlier rooms. That's just kind of a design limitation. But here, this room is also significantly easier, and I'll admit, I thought about doing, like, the rigorous testing of, like, fine-tuning all the jumps to make them, like, ridiculously hard, like I did in some of the other rooms, or at least to make them moderately challenging. All I did is I tested to make sure that it was doable in every race. And I thought about adding a bunch of stuff and, like, changing up some of the jumps, and I'll be honest, my logic is because I already know that when I get more budget, I am going to delete basically everything in this room and rebuild it from scratch. Same theme, but with like completely new jumps. And I'm also probably going to, like, the final version of this room. Let me just make sure I don't fuck this up. Almost fucked that up. This jump is like really fucking hard. This one, so I actually originally had an intermediary jump there. Some reason, like I said, a bunch of objects get rotated. I often find that it's the same random objects that get like rotated like 5 degrees. I had a post right here that made this jump easier for Volpera, and every single time I came back into my house, it was like rotated 50 degrees. It was like literally not in the wrong spot at all. And that is a problem when it happens to a key part of the jumping puzzle. So I just took that intermediary jump out entirely. I'm going to see if I can make this, and I'm going to be honest, if I fail this first try, yeah, I'm just going to... I believe that that is technically possible if I stand on the very edge and pixel perfect it, but I'm just... Like, I don't fucking know. I remember it was basically pixel perfect on Volpera before, which is why I had the jump. And again, I'm not even going to bother, like... Why is this... I don't know why... Yeah. Okay, there we go. Now I got it to work properly. Because I know that I'm going to just rebuild this room, I'm not investing the same amount of energy into, super duper fine-tuning it. Jesus fucking Christ. Oh! Substrats, round 2. I might add, like, at least an intermediary jump at some point, just so Volpera players can clear my puzzle in the meantime, like, without having to make that pixel-perfect jump. Should work. There we go. Backboard strats. Okay, so here, we have the exit to the room. Now, when I make the final version of this room, like I said, it's going to be a lot different. And I also believe I'm going to wrap it all the way around here. I'm probably going to split the room in half. So I'm going to use like a dividing wall. And you'll have to like parkour up one side. And then the exit is actually going to be here on this side of the wall. It'll be the same theme as the one that you're about to see, but I don't know why I just opened a map. You can see here, we go into an L-shaped room. I'm going to slightly change the plan for that. It will eventually loop back to the same area, but the current plan is... It's going to, I think I'm going to add, like, another room this way. So there's going to be, like, a second room, maybe, like, 2 more rooms, and then it's going to loop back here. And then you're going to have to do this stuff, and then I'm going to add more rooms this way. But... Like, the fact that this is just a very tiny loop immediately was kind of a necessity with, like, I mean, I'm literally at my room placement budget. Like, I don't have space to add more rooms this way. But when I get more room placement budget, we'll expand the puzzle out this way. Then we'll wrap back around, and we'll see. The only problem is, we'll talk about why this might not work. And this is still, like, just random ideas, work in progress. Drop down here. Notice something cool here. So the doorway is blocked off. I'm going to jump through here, so I can pass through. I can't go back. This is a one-way carpet. There's a rug, or whatever. There's a few of these, where you can go on one side and you can't go the other side. So, okay, this is the upside-down hallway. And you can see, like, there's a wall, like, topsy-turvy shit in the way. This wall, this is an interior wall. You can't go under it. Can't go over it. And mages cannot blink through. I actually... very, very precise pixel movements to make sure that this was not cheesable. A few early versions of this were cheesable, so I had to spend a lot of time to make sure it was perfectly aligned to prevent passage. Originally, there was no way to make it, like, perfectly left to right flat, so by angling it this way, I actually managed to block off all sides. It worked out perfectly. I'm really happy with how that turned out. I'm going to keep this hallway basically exactly how it is. I really like how this hallway turned out. But like I said, I will probably add a few more rooms before we get to this one, for reasons that you will see. So here, mandatory jump off the wall, jump off the chandelier here, which is sticking out of the floor, jump onto this bookcase. The chair is too far off the ground for you to click onto it. A few people have tried. You can walk onto it. You walk off here, land on the bathtub. The tactical floating bathtubs are something that I've used a lot while designing the house. I needed to make sure that at least one bathtub was included in the puzzle somewhere because of how large of a role they played in the actual designing process. I have a lot of screenshots of myself, like, covering the walls with carpets while lifted in the air by a bathtub. It's a very convenient thing to use. Make this jump here. And go here. This room as a whole is probably the easiest room on a Volpera. Taller races, these jumps are a lot more precise, but if you're short, the chances of bonking your head are significantly lower. So one advantage of Volpera. And now, the most evil part of my entire jumping puzzle. So we are back in the Legion room, and if you fall, and like, see, here's the thing here, like, you can see one of the objects randomly clipped into the floor, and you can see the floor below it. No, whatever. In fact, yeah, one of my tear-hold fountains has just disappeared. It's probably, like, rotated. Whatever. Get the idea. The game is very buggy. So, this is the floor plan, right? When I designed this, I said I wanted to do something different. So you have the two rooms that are fairly distinct, and then you have a switchback that goes over an existing room. So in order to reach the final room, I actually need to cross the ceiling area of room 4. And if you fall, you lose these 2 rooms of progress. Now, I'm going to give you a spoiler right now. If I fall, I'm building myself a bathtub, and we are skipping the fuck back out of here, and I'm just going to show you the end of the puzzle, because, like, you don't need to see me do all this again. What the fuck is going on down there? I think I've noticed that sometimes when I do the, like, view floor plan, the game bugs out. Yeah, like, now if I go into edit house, that area is back. It's weird. This is also back. Okay, yeah, so some weird display bugs happening there. But the entire idea here is I wanted to make sure that some of the rooms, like, interacted with each other. I didn't want the entire thing to feel like a collection of 6 isolated puzzle rooms that are just all, like, one after the other. I want them to feel like they are an intertwined puzzle set. And by having one of the puzzles cut back over another one, and if you fail, you lose progress and have to go back multiple rooms, I think that accomplishes it. And I'll try to think of, like, more interesting ways in the future, hopefully with, like, more decor options and like room styles and stuff to expand on that idea and add more, like, interactivity, like, between the different puzzles. But for now, I feel this was a pretty good way to do it. So let's hopefully not fail the first jump. I didn't fail the first jump, W. Now, this one's always weird. This is a really hard jump, I will admit, on Volpera. You need to aim for, like, this section, like there. Because, like, it looks like you might want to... I actually think you do. For Volpera, you might actually just want to aim here. I don't know. I'm going to trust my gut, and I'm going to aim here, and I'm going to fail. And I'm going to build myself a bathtub. I will admit, this jump is really fucking hard on Volpera with 0% speed. I think, like, the recommended way to do this puzzle is really, like, on a Blood Elf or Void Elf or, like, some sort of Elf, Night Elf with, like, 10 to 20% speed. Even, like, that tiny 10% speed, like, it doesn't seem like much, but it makes a massive difference in some of these jumps feeling easier. Yeah, so I should have jumped there. You can barely land there on Volpera. I have, for the record, tested all of this on Volpera. I know it is possible. Except the pipe jump. The pipe jump, I honestly can't remember, because like I said, there was an intermediary one. But, like, I know all of this is doable. It's just much harder. Right, jump here. Oh, wow, I haven't failed that jump in a while. I did not get a good running start. I'm gonna still do it, just to show it. These are all very forgiving jumps. That's the thing, though. Like, it may not look like that because I am playing quite literally the hardest combination of, like, race, class, etc. to do this puzzle on, purely for demonstration purposes. But, like, basically any class or race can very easily clear this section. These are very basic point A, point B jumps, and that's the idea. I'm not trying to hit you with, like, super challenging technical jumps. It's literally just jump. That's the entire thing. but your nerves get to you, right? Because you don't want to fuck up and lose 2 rooms of progress. So here, like, yeah, this hitbox is very forgiving. I very rarely fail this. Now, one thing that I want to point out here, which you'll see in the next room, this little, like, moonwell thing has a cross on it. A little cross there. All right? Just keep that in mind, right? And now we're in the final room, the chess room. So, originally, I was actually going to have, like, a gigantic chess set. I was going to make a giant octagon room and have, like, a chessboard, like, double the size of the pieces, like, much larger. And it was going to be, like, you know, late middle game chess position. Probably something to do with en passant, because, like, haha, funny en passant. And initially you were going to have to, like, jump across the puzzle pieces to reach the other side, and there'd be, like, a blocker around the chessboard, so you had to, like, go back to the start. And that didn't work for a number of reasons. One, I didn't have the room budget for a large octagon room. It also would have been much harder to build a chessboard twice the size, and this seemed to work out really well. By the way, if anybody wants to build this, Zuldazar fence post flipped upside down actually worked quite well, as you can see. The only problem is the circular woolen rugs, again, always end up in a weird spot. There's lots of things that you can use for, like, the side here. I'm using large Revendreth storage crate because this fits the diameter of the room, and it's only 3 budget each. So there's other options that are like 5 budget, but these look good enough, and they can be sized up to this amount, and 3 budget is like the cheapest way I could find to build a border to this. And the reason why I said this as a cross is because anybody who knows chess, right, like, what's the iconic part of the king in most chess sets? It has, like, a little cross, like, coming out of, like, the top of its head. So the original inspiration for this chess set is I was going to have a Night Elf themed set for the white pieces and a Horde themed set for the black pieces. It was going to be like, you know, kind of Warsun Gulch, but in chess form. And this was going to be the king. It's a little moonwell with the, you know, the cross thing out of it. Looks kind of like it could be a king piece. This is the queen, the owl's the knight, the runestone is the rook, this is the pawn. I've seen a few people use this fence post for, like, their own DIY chess pieces. The Suramar fence post works amazingly well as a bishop. The little slats here really match. I don't know what the fuck it's called, like the bishop in a chessboard. I had to get a little bit more creative, admittedly, with the Horde pieces, right? Like, I used the Sylvanas flag as the queen, the Borealis fence post. Not because it is Borealis, right? But it's also wood, so it matches, like, the totem and stuff. I used the Razan Loa of Kings thing here. Get it? Loa of Kings. And then I couldn't really think of anything good to use as, like, the knight, so we have, like, this kind of eagle statue here. And I didn't end up having room for the rook, but I was going to use, like, an orcish bonfire as the rook as part of the Horde chessboard. And I think that's... Is that all of them? Or do I have... there's no bishop here. What was I going to... I remember I had it planned out. What was I going to use as the bishop? I forget. Yeah, because I had Taran for the knight, Orc for the rook, like Razan troll. I designed this like a fucking month ago. It was one of the other races. I might have done like Goblin or something. I think I had something Goblin planned. But I also, admittedly, I couldn't think of anything that good, right? So I had a very clear idea for like the Night Elf pieces. So I just added all of those here for like the floating chess pieces. And then I took like my most concrete ideas for the Horde pieces and I added them to the puzzle there. Now, the problem with this, I'll admit, I like this puzzle, but it's very easy to just break it in half. The intended way to do it is you jump here, and like this jump is a little bit tricky. So the way that you're supposed to do it, you jump onto the rook, you jump onto the knight, you jump onto the queen. That's also still kind of hard. You're supposed to backwards hop then, I forgot. Backwards hop onto the queen, and then from here, it's quite easy to land on the pawn. Now, initially when I designed this, there's a problem here, which I will explain the problem. I don't want to draw attention to it, but there's a glaring issue with this design that forced me to make this part a bit easier. Initially, it was structured in such a way that this was a little bit harder, and you couldn't easily make this jump. I can very easily make this jump now. I'll probably redesign it eventually, but I figured that I have more pressing things to worry about than to like make this jump significantly harder, because then if I redesign this jump, I have to redesign this jump and then redesign that jump, etc. The problem stems from I had to like change the position of the bishop and the knight here, but like the way that it's supposed to work is like you jump over here, land on the bishop, you jump over here, land on the knight. I fucked that up, like whatever. But you're supposed to do that, but after like a bunch of testing, I just realized that you can literally just jump here onto the black pawn, and it's like not that hard. The reason why I thought this was harder than it is I actually tested this on like a bit higher speed, and this is actually kind of hard to do if you have like 10 to 20% speed. But with 0% speed, it's actually very, very easy. This jump is also, it seems really hard. It's not, I say, as I fuck it up. This jump you can even make, right? Like, I've been doing the queen jump, but yeah. And it's a little bit weird, right? Because your instincts tell you that you want to back hop the jump onto the pawn, but then the irony is that that actually makes it harder, because then you tend to overshoot. Here, you just land on it. Yeah. It's still not easy, right? That's one of the reasons why I haven't really bothered to, like, redesign this, because, like, this jump onto the queen is actually really fucking precise. And then you have to make, like, that hop onto, like, the back of the little flag post and stuff. It's not easy. And since it's, like, the very end, and you also have, like, infinite retries, I'm just like, yeah, fuck it. Like, part of this room is just meant to be, like, floating chessboard in it. Like, that's kind of the idea, and it just looks cool. And, like, most people will get to this room, and, like, when I show them in the tour, and they'll just, like, hang out here. Like, actually, in the housing stream, half of the judges got to this room, and they just sat around, like, looking at the chess piece, and they're just like, we're gonna chill here. And they just hung out, sitting around on the chessboard, right? It's a vibe. So, I figured I nailed the vibe, I built my fucking chessboard. Don't really need to make sure that the jumps are literally pixel perfect the way I envisioned them. It's still cool. It's still a fucking floating bishop, right? Like, whatever. Here, this is a walk-off. There we go. And then you jump here. So, why are we here? Well, because if you go over here, this is a door. This is the end of the puzzle. There's a front door that you can use to exit. Now, here's the problem. The hitbox to click this door is fucking ginormous. You can click this thing from half the room away. Now, I did very carefully line it up so that you cannot click it while standing on the ground here. You can't. It's not possible. Like, even here, yeah, you can't do it. But, the original version of this puzzle, the door was supposed to be here. And the problem is, if you land on the head of the knight here, and you walk over to the edge here, it is, like, basically impossible for me to position the door in any way around here that you aren't able to reach it from, like, standing on the tip of this little knight thing. So I could either find a new horde piece to serve as, like, the horde knight or something like that, but I was really happy with, like, this item. I thought it looked really cool, and I wanted to include it in the puzzle. And so I moved the doorway back to the start here because I figured you're closer to the ground here. So as you go up onto the floating pieces, you're getting further away from the door, right? So by the time you're high enough to click, like, the vertical side of it, you're also too far away. Problem is then, in the process of rearranging all that, I also broke these two jumps. So now you don't even do the front door. Yeah, it's whatever. Like I said, I'm happy with how this room turned out, but this is also kind of the thing of, like, I am going to keep my chess room here, but, I'm probably going to convert this into a large octagon room, and even if I do not, like, change the chessboard itself, I might keep it like this. I might add additional jumps, right? So you get past the chessboard, but then what if there's, so in case it isn't obvious, like, this is loosely Karazhan themed. Was, like, the inspiration here, upside down hallway, Karazhan thing. They're all supposed to be part of, like, one room. So even if this loops back around, like, my working name for this room, which I'll probably say in the video, is the Fractured Foyer. And this is meant to be, like, a series of like little rooms in Karazhan that are like split across time and space, right? Like that's the reason why it's in outer space. Like Karazhan is like connected to what's it called, like nether space, where you fight like fucking Vizidum. This is the entire reason I did this, right? Because I had the Legion ship. I'm like, what if it's a Legion ship like the one in Karazhan? The like Karazhan's presence radiates through another, a beacon drawing in the Legion's might. That guy, I can't do his voice properly, but you know what I'm talking about. Upper Kara. So I thought about that, and I'm like, well, what if, like in Upper Kara, you have like doorways up at the top of like the outer space part of Legion Room that are connected to like seemingly normal like hoity-toity manor rooms, and it's like if it was in Karazhan. That's why like the doorways, you know, the door opens, the doorway is meant to be open here, and you're meant to see this doorway floating in space, and it's meant to look like fucking Twilight Zone-esque of like, why is this doorway just floating in outer space? Because it leads to a section of, you know, maybe not necessarily Karazhan, right? I'm not calling it Karazhan in the name, but that's definitely the inspiration. So I might take some other like thematic elements of Karazhan. So like maybe I make this like a large octagon room, and with the extra space, there's like floating bookcases or something. So you jump off the chessboard onto like a floating bookcase or something. And there's also like I'll show you some cool tech to end out the video. Shout out to Azro for kind of discovering this. More so, he didn't like discover it. He was like, hey, can you fucking do this? Because he doesn't have access to housing. Azro, by the way, if you don't know him, like big Demon Hunter parkour guy. So he said, crazy idea, but like, have you tried doing this? And then I played around with this for a while, and I managed to make it work. So he was like, what if you take the doorway and you make it so you have to open the doorway and then jump like this? It's really fucking hard to do. I'll try to see if I can get it. I think it might only be possible with Demon Hunters. It's definitely doable on a DH. I've actually never tried to do it on a non-DH. I'll give up if I can't get it done in like a bit. If you time it just right, the reason it works on Demon Hunter really consistently is you can time your double jump as the hitbox is appearing. And if you can't tell what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to lodge myself in here as it's going. I think it might... It's either going to be like pixel perfect or not possible on here. But I can open the bookcase in either way. So you could probably still do things. Like, yeah, imagine... So the Demon Hunter version of the trick is really crazy. As the bookcase is closing, you double jump and activate your second jump as the hitbox appears, and you actually clip yourself into the bookcase, and then you open the bookcase again and basically do a second double jump while standing in midair on where the bookcase was. So it allows you to effectively jump off of nothing by placing a bookcase and then opening and closing it and like clipping your head into it. It's really fucking crazy. The reason Azro thought of it is apparently there's like basically glitches that you can do in like older instances that kind of simulate this. Obviously not using opening and closing stuff, but you basically clip your head into like half broken terrain or something like that. And he was like, well, what if you use the doors as a way to simulate the broken terrain? And it works. I have tested it on a Demon Hunter, but an even simpler version of this jump is like I don't know exactly how I would make this work, but I'm just thinking like you do something like this, I activate the bookcase, and then I do this, and I have to like land on the other side. It's not working now that I try it. But yeah, land here, right? So I don't know exactly how I would make that work in a convincing way, but you see the idea. You see the inspiration here, where you have to land at the exact time that the hitbox appears so that you're here. How I would make that work in a convincing way, because then, like, the obvious question is, like, well, why don't you just do this? And, like, in this particular situation, yeah, you can. You obviously can. There would have to be probably some, like, intermediary jump, right? And, like, this is how I build all these jumping puzzles, right? I think about, like, cool fucking idea. How do I make this work? So it would have to be something like this, where obviously I'm at my budget. So just like work with me here. Use your like, you know, your imagination. You're standing here, and like pretend that you can like act, or you actually can activate it from here. So you're standing over here, and like if I actually, could I like fucking simulate this kind of? Let's look at it like this. So here, let's pretend that there's a wall. Like where these Revendreth storage crates are, there's like a wall blocking you off here. You can't get here, and there's like another wall here, or something like that. And there's like there's a pit below here. So I'm standing here. I activate this bookcase, and I have to like then jump over here, and then like activate this, and then jump and land on top of it. And like that wouldn't have been possible because like I don't know. I don't know why it wouldn't have been possible. But let's just pretend that I thought of some crazy thing to make it not possible. I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and like the point of this video is to showcase my house, not to like brainstorm new jumping puzzle ideas. But you get what I'm cooking, right? Like hopefully you understand the crazy ideas that I have of like having to open and close bookcases to use them as like mid-air floating platforms or something like that. I think that could be sick. And that's probably what I'm going to expand this room to be. But that's the idea. That's the house, right? That is every single room. I'm going to go add my Lochmadon bearskin rug back to the first room so that it is not missing and that my room here has a centerpiece bearskin rug. We'll add this here. It's going to be super OCD. Make sure it is centered properly. That looks good enough to me. That's about, I think, where it was before. And if not... yeah, that looks good. That's not where it was, then fuck it. Whatever. I'm fine with this. It looks good. Big bear head. But yeah, that's my house. 7 rooms in total. And I'm cooking some other shit still. I'll be honest... as much fun as I've had putting this puzzle together, and as much as I really want to continue doing jumping puzzle shit in the future, this has consumed the better part of my December, and it's now January, and midnight is in 2 months. I have to do leveling testing, I have to do endgame testing for raids, especially because I'm in like a higher end guild now, and I also have to make guides, I have to make my leveling guides, and I'm making an add-on this time, a completely free leveling add-on for Midnight. And that's a lot of stuff to do. And I can't do all that and design like brand new jumping puzzles. So that's kind of why, like I've said, you know, I'm happy with what I have here. I think it's a solid, fun jumping puzzle. I'm going to try and find ways to get you guys to test it out. Presumably in my main channel video, I've already described how I plan to get you guys in here. Probably going to get you invites to the guild. So, like, there's a housing guild thing. I don't know exactly how this works, because it's, like, I don't know. I'll have to think about it, because, like, on one hand, right, I want people to visit it, but I also don't want to, like, fuck with the neighborhood and, like, cause people to move their houses in here if they're not supposed to, which I don't think they are, so... I gotta figure that out at the time of recording, but presumably by the time I post my video, I will have already figured out a easy enough way to do that. But yeah. We'll see. The main thing is I don't want to involve a solution that requires you to add my main battle tag, because my main battle tag does not have much room. So maybe I could do like one of my alt accounts or something. I don't know. We'll see. But thanks for watching. Long video, I know, but... initially, I wanted it to just be like a showcase of like the jumps in the jumping puzzle, but then also there's like so many little details here that I know for a fact I'm not going to focus on in my video, which is going to be a lot shorter, and I wanted to highlight all the effort that I put into that, because I put a lot of effort into this house, and I'm proud of it. I'm happy with how it turned out. So yeah, again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.